let's check out what Tim Pool is up to these days. Here is Tim Pool. He's going to weigh in on the Israeli attack on Iran and Iran's firing back. And now this is a very sensitive topic for Tim, because he's both anti-war and pro-Israel starting a war, but he can't really articulate any of that in any meaningful way, or his audience will get confused, because Tim tries to sit on the fence with these things. So this is a complicated high wire act. And one of the strategies Tim does is try and put as many people in the studio at any given time so he doesn't have to articulate certain things, it seems to me. But he still needs to have like a hook.
Yeah, you got to have some red meat for the folks.
And what's it going to be in this situation?
I don't know if we have this one.
Oh, there you go. Always messing with the audio with Tim Pool.
No, we don't have that one pulled up. We do have this. Trump says Iranian negotiators working with U.S. are no longer alive. He says they didn't die of the flu, they didn't die of COVID. Israeli sources had been reporting, check this out, how an Israeli-American deception campaign lulled Iran into a false sense of security. Israeli official says Trump's warnings to Netanyahu not to attack, as well as stories of Israeli officials flying to the U.S. and PM taking a short vacation, were put out to fool the regime. Now, I don't know how much of that is true, but with Trump saying we know everything, it sounds like that may have been the case. That the U.S. was basically saying, no, we want to negotiate with you. Considering Trump's the one who killed the nuclear deal, him saying I want to negotiate you, it's plausible. And the reason why they're keeping this from the American people is that Trump knows his base.
I can tell Tim is winding up to say something pretty brave here, which is, I am anti-war. Donald Trump is the anti-war candidate. Pretending that you're in negotiations for nuclear disarmament as a way of predicating a strike, in fact, a war, a surprise attack on you, that's bad. That's bad because I'm anti-war and Donald Trump is anti-war, and we don't want to start a nuclear, and we don't want to encourage so-called rogue regimes to have a nuclear weapon, because it's the only way that they can defend themselves against an attack by a foe that might be armed by the biggest arms supplier in the world. Watch out, folks. Here it comes. Kudos to Tim for bringing this up. Here it comes.
And the reason why they're keeping this from the American people is that Trump knows his base is largely anti-intervention and doesn't want to be involved in this. But it's entirely possible. Trump was trying to maintain the posture of, we don't want to be involved in this conflict, getting those stories out so Iran thought the attack would not happen.
The Netanyahu also said he wants an Iranian revolution. He wants the people to overthrow the dictatorship that is their government. He doesn't have a problem with the Iranians. It's the government. It's the dangerous, psychotic. This is his argument. I think Trump might feel the same way. And I'll tell you what, if I was in their position, if I was the Ayatollah Khomeini right now, and I was betrayed like this by the Americans in the middle of the peace deal, I would never forgive them, literally never forgive them. So unless they're removed from power or destroyed, whatever, unless they're removed from power, I don't see this conflict ending. Now, if there is a regime change in Iran and there's a democratically, maybe there's a republic that's instantiated, maybe that can quell the violence, but I don't see it. Other than that, I don't see it.
And that kind of wasn't the result in Iraq. I don't know that would be the result in Iran either.
Iran was a successful democracy.
They do have a much longer history as this is going to sound bad, but as a civilized state. Like, they have been around independently for thousands upon thousands of years. On the other hand, Islam is a
tribal.
It's a religion that likes violence, and the concern that I would have is that
for a second, I want to just remind you, they're talking about a conflict that was started by a country that claims they are a Jewish state. Judaism is a religion. Now, I would argue that, in fact, they are not a Jewish state. They're an Israeli, a Zionist state But that's not. When Bibi Netanyahu orders bombs to fall on Tehran, he does so because he says he's protecting Jews around the world. Someone should tell that guy, I don't know who it is.
Aiden Mattis.
Someone should tell Aiden Mattis, those are the people who started that war.
I would just underline the whole ruse was let's do diplomacy to avoid a war. So if they're fundamentally warlike, given their religion, that ruse wouldn't have worked.
Exactly. We should also say that, like, what would the response been if they said, oh, just keep bombing us? We're okay with that. Well, you know, one of the things about Islam, they don't value their lives. Right? Like, I mean, it is fascinating. The different ways that these folks will try and figure out how to be Islamophobic. I mean, he sort of just like, you know, was hesitant a little bit, but like, you know, the religion really likes war.
There was
You know, what's interesting is there's also another religion, a third religion, that has also engaged in wars. You know, let me tell you something about what's happening just a little bit north of Iran. There's a country a little bit north and a little bit to the east, I guess, that has invaded another country. Guess what their religion is? Christian. That's fascinating. Oh, there's this country that used to have this like empire where they would invade other countries and take their resources and actually have them be colonies. And it was the Islamic Republic of England? Was that what it was? It's just fascinating the way that they'll like be very thoughtful about all of this.
These grooves, I mean, this is why people like me rejected sort of the new atheist sort of critique of, or fixation at rather on Islam, which is it creates these grooves of like the path that even in a topic about how Israel and America decided to simulate diplomacy to lure Iran into a
false sense of security.
And then you go directly from that to actually Islam is fundamentally violent with no intervening stage.
It's fascinating. And I say this as someone who's like has a real problem with all stripes of fundamentalist religion.
Yes.
But it is fascinating how even like, you know, the new atheists always are like, well, but Islam is the motherlode of bad ideas.
What are you going to do?
They're always like, if they're not, being suckers falling into the trap of a fake peace negotiation, then,
they're not foregoing a nuclear capability so they can
have peace and wanting to feed their people.
And it's the Islam war lust.
I love this guy with the green shirt. He was making the point, like he started to say, well, it hasn't always been like such a violent and awful place. It was, and then he almost says democracy, but then he, I think, quickly realized like, oh, I can't talk about Mossadegh because
yes.
Oh, then I have to bring up that it was the United States CIA that actually took him out and installed a Shah.
So he stops himself from saying democracy because he wants to be able to say he likes the Shah.
This is going to sound bad, but as a civilized state, like they have been around independently for thousands upon thousands of years. On the other hand, Islam is a
tribal.
It's a religion that likes violence, and the concern that I would have is that what Trump may not be understanding here is that in Islam, in their eschatology, it says that in the end of days, the stones will cry out, "There is a Jew behind me, come and kill him."
Yeah.
So when you look at the people who are in charge of Iran, as much as the regular average Iranian probably isn't a hateful person, the people in control are, and their opinion is that it is better to die than it is to submit to the world outside of Islam. And that would be the concern I would have. I think it's foolish to go into a conflict with them expecting that they will tolerate their own people rising up. They will happily kill them before giving up power.
I heard that.
I would just say the people seem pretty aligned in their support of their leaders.
Well, that's what happens when you bomb all of them.
It's what happened in the UK during World War II. Keep going.
Let's just hear a little bit more. I mean, I'm just waiting for. I like how Tim will not express an opinion that Israel in any way was being warmongering here.
That the Israelis basically launched a surgical strike, destroying members of the Iranian government and military, like top nuclear scientists.
They were literally killing people in the room. Like they were selecting the room that they were in, shooting ordnance into the room that really basically just killed the people in the room. It didn't destroy the building or whatever.
So just
excuse me? Is that right? No.
I remember hearing this early post October 7th too, until it became, a joke to say because of all the footage
Right.
trouble.
There is footage of like mayor of a town outside of, just on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, that was hit pretty hard by the Iranians. Killed, I think, 2 people. Saying that showing Israelis saying like, this looks like Gaza. It just that can be sent without any irony. It's just fascinating. Israel started this attack. They started this war. And either they did so as part of a plan to lull the Iranians into thinking there was going to be peace, or they just undermined attempts at making peace.
And like you said with Stephen Wertheim, how do you get back to the negotiating table after something like that?
And not just with Iran.
Anybody.
Like, what idiot would lead a country in the world that wouldn't be suspicious of any peace talks with the United States now? Like, honestly, like you would have to be, and let's be clear, we're not just talking about like individual personalities. There are hardliners in the Iranian government. There are ultra conservatives in the Iranian government, and there are reformists in the Iranian government. I mean, we saw this dynamic after 9/11. Who was empowered after 9/11? Who was empowered after 9/11? Was it the peaceniks?
Yeah.
Was it the people who wanted to cut defense? Was Bernie Sanders empowered after 9/11? Or did we just see our defense budget skyrocket? You're not just dealing with one individual in any country. Any given leader has to respond to their constituencies. Those constituencies may be narrow, maybe 30 people in their, oligarchs or their Politburo or their council or whatever it is. But there's going to be hardliners there. And when this happens, those hardliners are going to go like, are you seriously going to go down the path of negotiations? This is just all a trick.
Yep.
And how do you argue against that?
And you make everybody that wanted that diplomacy in Iran look like traitors.
Like idiots and fools and naive. I mean, that's the thing that, and I think Israel is just setting it up so that that's the case. I mean, my guess is that Trump just got rolled. Yeah. Don't forget, he's incredibly incompetent. Yeah. He's an incredibly incompetent leader. And this is what the difference between an incompetent leader and a non-incompetent leader looks like, where Israel not only dragging you around by the tail, and Biden also was largely incompetent in his dealings with Israel. I think it's also possible he may have been just literally incompetent, and guys like McGurk were doing exactly what they wanted to do.
Autopilot.
But this is Trump's incompetence, because I actually think he wanted these negotiations with Iran to actually bear some fruit. And he's allowed the Israelis to run circles around him and essentially say, you can never, ever enter into negotiations with America because you cannot trust them. It is a trap. Always. Always. And you know what? You'd be an idiot not to listen to that advisor. I mean, this is Netanyahu again, bullshit.
These people who chant death to America, try to assassinate President Trump twice, killed 241 of your Marines in Beirut, killed and injured thousands of American soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq, try to bomb a restaurant in Washington, D.C., chant death to America, burn the American flag. Do you want these people to have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities? Of course not.
Yeah.
So we're defending ourselves, but we're also defending the world.
I want to talk
We're
about
defending ourselves by launching an unprovoked war.
Undermining your State Department.
Undermining your State Department, undermining the word of the United States. They had to cancel a meeting, a nuke deal meeting this weekend, not the least of which because they assassinated the chief negotiator. I don't need to bring up the USS Liberty in the context of criticizing Israel, but apparently we can go way back. Just grotesque. Grotesque. What was that other one you had up there? Yeah, this, incidentally, is disturbing to find out. I know that there are Zionists and folks who are, I would argue, racist or Islamophobic towards Palestinians, who will listen to this clip about how you have Palestinians embedding their military apparatus in densely populated areas, as if it's like a sign that they're using human shields and they have no value. They don't place value on human lives. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I got confused. This is actually a report on Israel getting hit. But see if you, see if this sounds familiar.
U.S. intel view that among the targets were Israeli airfields, but also, and this is crucial, the headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside Tel Aviv. It's in the northern part of Tel Aviv, but it's in the city. It's in a densely populated area. And of course, the concern is if you're firing, even though Iran might consider that a military target, it is in a densely populated city with civilians around it. And that's just one more layer of escalation.
Oh, Iran might consider the Mossad a military target? There were car bombs that went off in Tehran yesterday, half a dozen of them, I think, or 2 days ago. The Mossad was likely in Iran, is likely still in Iran, providing targeting information.
They've been boasting to that effect.
That's might be considered a military, and yet the Israelis put it in the middle of a densely populated area. Why would they do that? Absolutely. It's just, it is fascinating to watch the way these things are reported so radically differently. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.